Hi everyone, it's Maria Yoder, and I was unable to get my video to work up with the Promethean board. I recorded it at the school and waited for it to process, and something went completely wrong. So it's right up to the deadline. So I'm recording in my kitchen. You probably can't see my face, but you can hear me. I'm using my phone. I tried a couple different things, and this is the best I can come up with at this time. So I apologize for the way things look and sound, but it's the best I can do at this point. So, all right, my project I did on semantics, and I will address you now as fellow teachers in the school I work in. A lot of people did semantics. It's broad and it's exciting. There's a lot of different ways you can branch out with semantics. And I wish in an ideal world I would have loved to go a lot deeper. But it's been a real interesting week, very full, and lots of things came up, and yes, I did the very best I could with all the time that I had. So I am so excited to be in this linguistics course. And again, I'm addressing you, my teachers in the school I work in. I am taking a linguistics course, and it has been very interesting. I wish that I could study linguistics for a long time, because it's super fascinating. And yeah, but right now with a job and 2 jobs and raising children of my own, I don't have a long time to study linguistics, but that will come later. I will have more time to do it someday. It's just very super interesting. Okay. And what is semantics? Semantics is the study of the meaning of language. Throughout history, the term semantics and its part in linguistics has been debated. According to dictionary.com, it can mean the noticing and classifying of language and how this can change. It is related to significs, which is the connections between signs and symbols. This can also be described as the relationship between a word and the thing it represents. I'm going to grab a chair 1 second. And significs, that is something I am fascinated with, the word and the thing it represents. And that's another thing I would like to delve further into, and I will someday. I did a little bit when I was in college, but for today, we're not going to focus hugely on that. We're going to think a little bit more about what is practical for us as teachers and how we can get semantics into our classrooms. So, as teachers, we can consider that semantics is about the connections students make between words and how they classify and organize them. And this image came from Bing. I don't want to take credit for it. And it's talking about business and exchange of money and other negotiations between people within business. And so you can see that words are deeply connected, and one word makes you think of another word, which makes you think of another word. And these words could be connected to these words, and it's just a massive interplay. And maybe that's a bit what our brains look like, but probably it's even a lot more complicated than that. According to Ullman and Athanasopoulos, semantics can also be the objective content of a piece of language. That would be an interesting world if we could think of a sentence, or I should say, if we could think of a word and it would always be objective. This word always means this word. And this would be really easy with a word like banana. If a non-English speaker asked you what a banana was, you could point to a picture and that would be enough. For the majority of the time, a banana always looks like this. So the word banana always is representing this here. And this picture came from CambridgeDictionary.com. This makes me think about something that has come up this week with iLearn. In the past, I didn't realize that students who are ESL students could have a word-to-word dictionary. I've only had level 1 Spanish students in the past, and for iLearn, they always have the glossary and sometimes they have stacked translation. I didn't realize until I was reading through the accommodations that they can have these word-to-word dictionaries. So I'm sure a lot of you already knew that, but I was super excited that I could order these dictionaries, these word-to-word dictionaries. Well, after talking to several people, I realized, yeah, it's a good tool and it's better to have than nothing, but in lots of ways, it's not extremely helpful because you're taking a word and you're finding one definition of that word and you're giving that in this book. And when you have a word, and when we're talking about semantics, a word, well, I'll get to this on the next slide, but one definition of the word might not be that right definition. So as the students are looking up words that they don't know, and oftentimes it might even be many words in a sentence that they don't know, and trying to string these together by looking at their word-to-word dictionary, it's going to be super hard because one definition might not work with the other words it's with. And so these word-to-word dictionaries might help a little bit, but they also won't be the best tools ever. But hey, at least it's something. So, like I said, with the word banana, we can point to a picture of banana. That is great. That word always means that picture. But semantics really recognizes that words take on meaning and connotations from the words they hang out with. And I was so much more relaxed when I gave this presentation using the whiteboard and the Promethean because I had time and I was at ease, and now I'm in a crunch for time. So I apologize because I'm not nearly as relaxed and able to talk about things as I was in my previous video, but I'm doing my best here. So teachers, so yeah, I like this. Like a word means a definition because of the other words it's with. Like it, just depending on the other words it's with and in what context, that's going to define the meaning. For example, we could think about this sentence here, or this example here. We could say it's a pleasure to meet someone, and we also say I'm headed to a swap meet. So the word meet means something completely different depending on the other words it's with. Even a better example for this, and this is a bit crude, but I thought of it because it's a family joke. The latter part, you could tell somebody not to burn themselves on a hot pan, but you could also say that someone is smoking hot if you thought they were very attractive. And you can see that, like, if a person who is a non-English speaker, if you were trying to explain what the word hot means, this could be very confusing because you would say that it's when something that is a very high degree of warmth, but it could also be referred to as a person that looks really good. So you give them a definition and then they hear it used in a completely different context and it doesn't add up. So yeah, language is funny, and this is why semantics is so interesting. You can give a definition for something And that definition is completely out the window in a different way that we're going to use that word. And we're using it with different words and different context, and no longer does the definition we gave suit the purpose. Speaking of definitions, oftentimes in the classroom, a student wants to know what something means, and we say, look it up in the dictionary. And that's great, and that's a great place to start, but this can also get kind of complicated. For example, take a minute to chat with the people beside you about what the definition of a sandwich is. Tell me give me a definition of a sandwich. All right. So hopefully you had a little bit of time to come up with something about a sandwich. And in my previous video that didn't work, I did have an audience member, but she's not here right now. So she's not able to give me her definition of a sandwich, but probably most people came up with something involving two bread-like pieces with a filling inside. And before I did the semantics project, I would have said the exact same thing. But what about, like, if it's not bread? What if it's a bun? Or what if it's a pita? Or what if it's a burrito? A burrito is stretching it, but like a pita, we would find that on a sandwich menu. And we would find a bun on a sandwich menu, and so those would also be considered sandwiches, but they're not pieces of bread on the outside of a filling. They're not two pieces of bread with a filling inside. But I mean, if we're gonna extend it to being a pita is a lot like a burrito. So that would sometimes seem like a sandwich, I think, to some people. It's a bread-like substance and it's got a filling inside of it. And there's empanadas and other things I'm thinking about, and you've got a bread-like substance and there's something inside it, and so would that not also be a sandwich? And then I was thinking about Oreos. We call those sandwich cookies. Where's the bread in this type of sandwich? It's not there. There's a filling, but it's not a typical sandwich filling, but it's a sweet sandwich. And then, of course, like ice cream sandwiches, that, of course, is also a type of sandwich. And it's got ice cream in the middle, and the outside pieces are not pieces of bread, but still a sandwich. So you can see how definitions can be very limiting. We have to expand our thoughts on what a word actually means, or a concept actually means, and also thinking about different languages. What a sandwich would be in a different language could be completely different than our idea of a sandwich. So it's just interesting when you think about telling somebody to look up a definition in a dictionary. That might work for a little bit, but when they start to speak with other people and start to live in the culture, that's not always going to work. Take a drink of something. Hold on. All right, Weebly.com talks about different ways to consider when defining the meaning of words. So instead of just looking up a word in a dictionary, one way would be to think about componential analysis. Componential analysis. This discusses the constituents of a word. An example of this would be thinking about a fish as, let's say somebody wants to know what a fish is, and we could think of a fish as being part of these categories. So aquatic vertebrates, omnivores, gill-bearing, So yeah, somebody said, what's a fish? Well, a fish is an aquatic vertebrate. It's an omnivore, and it's gill bearing. And that would serve as a good answer for what a fish is. Another way to think about the definition of a word, according to Weebly.com, is by lexical fields. Weebly says this is thinking about words within groups of other related words. An example of this is thinking about a fish as being a part of a group. So somebody asks you, what's a fish? Well, a fish is a pet. So in other things that are in the same category of pets are snake, cat, dogs, bunny. These are all pets. And what I can tell you about pets is that you have to take care of them, you have to feed them, you have to keep them clean, you need to keep their surroundings clean, you need to interact with them. So I can also say that a fish is a pet, and this is what I know about pets, and so that is part of the definition of a fish. We can think about it this way, and going back, oh no, I can't go back. Oh no. All right, going back. So definition of a fish as its components. These are the parts of groups it's a part of: aquatic vertebrates, omnivores, gill bearing. But also we can broaden the definition of a fish by seeing it as being part of another group, being part of the group of pets. And this is thinking about it with lexical fields. Okay. Of course, within semantics, we also talk about word relationships. And these are things that are going to sound very common to everybody, and I'm sure that you are using them in your classrooms. Of course, we've got synonyms, words with similar meanings. And yes, looking back, I didn't necessarily choose the best example when I chose cat and feline, because I don't call my house cat a feline. I mean, I might for funny, but they're not necessarily completely the exact same thing. Cat, but they are in a sense. In some ways, I wish I would have used something different here, but because cat is kind of maybe a part of the feline field or group. But anyways, you could still say that cats are felines and felines are cats, so they're a bit interchangeable. Maybe a better example is automobile and car. I could say I'm going to drive my automobile downtown, or I'm going to drive my car downtown, and basically it would be saying the exact same things. Antonyms, words that mean the opposite: hot, cold, tall, short, light, dark, old, young. And I'm sure you could argue with me that these are not completely opposite in some certain cases. And of course, that's just really getting into semantics, of course, because you could argue that, I don't know, I guess these are pretty opposite, but I was just thinking about this, is that probably somebody could tell me that these are not completely opposite and that they actually have some things alike, and that there might be a better opposite. But they're for simple explanations of what antonyms are, they work. Homophones, yes. Words that are spelled the same or sound the same but have different meanings. To, hair, there. These are fun. They can be difficult. I taught homophones a little bit, well, a couple days, two days. I worked on it with my ESL 1, level 1 students, and it was tricky. They had to we did a scoot around the room, and they had to have their notes in hand to try to remember what kind of clues they were looking for. And I had to do a lot of gesturing because we were still at a very limited place in communicating. That was this year, and now I would say me and these level 1s, they may be level 2s at this point. Hope we'll find out here coming up in May when WIDA scores come out. But we communicate a lot better than we did when we were learning about homophones in the very beginning of the year. So I found it a challenge, but it was a fun challenge. They figured out that they could put the word through a formula that I had given them, basically to decide which we were using 2, 2, and 2, and there to figure out which word to put in the blank. And well, we had fun with it, but it was confusing. Well, yeah, I should say it was confusing, but we found our way through it, and we had clarity, moments of clarity. Okay, so we've all done activities with these word relationships that I just talked about, but what can we do to get students more grounded in word connectedness? Semantic mapping. This might not look exactly what you think about as semantic mapping, but I made this, I think, 2.5 years ago when I was getting my teaching degree, and I can't exactly remember what class it was for or what the project exactly was, but it had something to do with 5th grade English language arts, a project for students to do, or I think maybe I was thinking about, I don't know if it was a project that students were supposed to be doing, or I think we were talking more about the semantic mapping and the connectedness of words and how things can branch off and be connected on the outskirts as well. So just talking about some of the things in 5th grade, rites of passage and growing up, both kind of the same thing. Then like on the bottom here, finding your voice, creating things, cooking, poetry, painting, music, listening, playing, reading biographies, finding your voice, talking about hard things, writing letters, graphic arts, journaling, blogging. And then on the top up here with growing up, we've got a branch, fitting in, questions, expectations, and on expectations, branching off to academics, asking for help, expectations, breathe, sports, family challenges, parents, talking honestly, sibling rivalry, conformity, just the complications at this age. And man, it gets more complicated as they get older, because I've got a 6th grader and a 7th grader right now. Oh, sorry about that. Oh, I got too excited about what I was talking about, but oh, it's been quite the weekend, let's say. That sums it all up. But anyways, yeah, it's these words and how they're connected and these ideas and these concepts. It's fascinating, and that's how semantic mapping can really, really, really help with writing. And now getting to the handouts that I have for you. This is part of it. I gave you some ideas from Teachers Pay Teachers. I printed them out, and I have to find out exactly how that goes with whether you can use the materials that I'm giving you, or if I need to buy another license for that, and I'm not completely sure. I cited Teachers Pay Teachers for all of these handouts. None of these are my own worksheets in any way, shape, or form, but they're all found in Teachers Pay Teachers, which I love. Anyways, semantic mapping here, and I like this. In your handouts, you had a lot of so I'm looking here at this, and in the handouts there were these little cards, and so let's say you chose Scooter, and so you put Scooter right there, And then, well, let's define scooter. So its attributes: color, shape, size, texture, etc. How do I use it? How do I use a scooter? Parts: it is made of this and has this. Location: where are you going to find a scooter? Association: what does it remind me of? Have I had somebody in my life who's driven a scooter before, or ridden? Category: what is a scooter a type of? And I think I started here. So this is basic, but I really like it. You could make your own version of this if you wanted to, but I mean, excellent for getting students brainstorming for what they want to write about, because, and I would encourage them to start with this, but then to create more lines and more circles coming off these other circles, and just to like get everything out they can think about a scooter, because it might come up with a creative story about riding their scooter in a city that they've always imagined they wanted to go to, but to get there, it would be great if they can have descriptions of what it looks like, and talking about it, what it reminds them of, like coming up with many things coming off of these circles. It will just make for some really rich writing. So then when they're stumped going in as they're writing, they maybe have a great idea and they get started, but reminding them to go back to their semantic map of what a scooter is. And so, and before that process, making them make a semantic map that takes one class period, and maybe even two, really getting something in depth. I think this is just a beautiful idea as far as writing, like getting every kind of little detail you can get that makes you think of the subject, that whatever you're writing about, because then you can add it to dialogue, and you can add it to descriptions and the smells and what you know about it, all these details that make writing so much more exciting. And a lot of kids get so stumped with writing, but if they have all these words and ideas to choose from, it's not so hard. And I was thinking, and I know I'm running out of time here, so I don't want to talk too much more, but I was thinking about a semantic mapping, and even going back to this. Okay, this is going to be hard for an ESL student, a 1 or 2, to know all these words. I mean, not this expectation, but even with the scooter, knowing lots of words and creating these in-depth semantic maps. Well, hey, let them make one like this, or make one like this. Let them use Spanish, let them use English, let them use Ukrainian, let them use whatever languages they have to make their semantic map. Absolutely. And maybe even let them write that way. I think that would be great if they could do creative writing. I don't know about nonfiction writing, but you could probably find ways of doing it, but of tying different languages into writing pieces. I don't know what would. It could be really great to do that. That's probably another conversation on a different day, but definitely for semantic mapping, allowing them just to be creative and just to think of whatever they can and get it out there. If later they do want to write it all in English, or they do want to write it all in Spanish or Ukrainian, that's fine. By getting every word down they can in whatever languages they know, do that. We want to get everything out that we possibly can get. I just think that semantic mapping is the absolute perfect way to brainstorm about writing. All right, and then this is the second handout I got from Teachers Pay Teachers, and it's pretty simple. It's very self-explanatory. However, it is probably, I'm in a 4th grade, we're in a 4th and 5th grade building, probably attainable for many 4th grade and 5th graders. Not necessarily for 4th and 5th grade ESL students, or possibly special education, or I shouldn't say, just students with other challenges that will have difficulty reading these words. I don't know exactly how much of the population of a 4th and 5th grade building could understand these words. Probably a lot, but not everybody. I'm often amazed at sometimes my expectations for what students understand, especially like a level 4 student who seems really like they're getting along just fine socially and they're getting good grades, but then sometimes you come up with a word and they just look at me blankly like here, this word wary. I think that a lot of students wouldn't know what that word was, especially level 4s, maybe, but words that I assume that students should know, will know, they don't. And I need to realize how much more semantic grounding these students need. And the more we can talk about words and how they're connected, the better, the more their vocabularies are going to grow. And their understanding for language and expressing themselves, and they're just these kind of exercises are just so healthy and have to be done. So anyways, in this I'm running out of time, so I don't want to take too much more time here, but in this activity, we are circling the 2 words that go together best in each square, and they're a little bit harder. In the earlier video I made, it took me some thought to think about which words were actually the ones that should be connected. So a bit of a brain tease, fun, very fun to figure out. Maybe a good activity for early finishers, something just to keep them busy. But for everybody, I think would benefit for this and making those word connections. And then, of course, just to finish up with idioms. Let me see how much time I have. Oh, yeah, I am running out of time. But love idioms. Love learning about idioms. But they're also super frustrating for students, especially English language learners. So you tell them a definition of a word, but then they hear something like my eyes are bigger than my stomach, just for an example. Well, what in the world does that mean? If I'd hear that in Spanish and if somebody said that in Spanish, which I do understand a lot, it would be very hard to comprehend if I didn't know it to be an idiom. Yeah, they're super confusing, but they're also very fun. And the more we can talk about them, the more we will let students or English language learners understand that language is certainly not always as it seems. And the more they can read, the more they can experience and ask questions and try to figure things out, the more they're going to understand idioms. But this is another handout I gave you from Teachers Play Teachers, and I like it because you read a story and the idiom comes up and it's not explained, and then here in this box it says clues. Write down the parts of the paragraph that help identify the meaning of the idiom, and you really have to do some thinking to come up with that. Where are the inferences that will tell me that? First of all, you have to understand what the idiom means to even figure out what parts are going to help you understand it. So there's some higher thinking going on here, and then defining what idiom is, and then giving another example. So yeah, I'm running out of time here, so I'm gonna wrap it up. Again, thank you. I am sorry that this video is not in any way the way I planned it to be. Yeah, technology and things just did not come through, so I did the very best I could here at a very late hour. Anyways, thanks for listening to me. Sorry if I sounded a little nervous or discombobulated. It has been a day, and signing off now. Thank you.